Lost in Space became one of television's most memorable family adventures. But behind its colorful sets, several cast members faced private struggles, surprising career choices, and conflicts that stayed hidden for decades. Years after the camera stopped rolling, interviews, memoirs, and production records revealed a very different story from the one viewers remembered, while one overlooked truth connected nearly every major cast member in an unexpected way. When Lost in Space first reached television screens in 1965, it captured the excitement of a world fascinated by space exploration. The real-life space race was filling newspaper headlines, and families were eager for stories that imagined what humanity's future beyond Earth might look like. Created by producer Irwin Allen, the series followed the Robinson family after a mission went terribly wrong, leaving them stranded among strange worlds and unexpected dangers. Over the next 3 seasons, the show produced 83 episodes before ending in 1968, becoming one of the defining science fiction programs of its era. The cast quickly became familiar faces in homes across America. Guy Williams played Professor John Robinson, June Lockhart portrayed Maureen Robinson, while Billy Newmy, Angela Cartwright, Mark Goddard, Marta Kristen, Jonathan Harris, and Bob May helped create characters that fans still remember today. Their chemistry on screen made the Robinson family seem believable, even during the show's most unusual adventures. Which Lost in Space character left the biggest impression on childhood memories? Share the answer in the comments. Behind the cameras, however, life was becoming far more demanding than viewers realized. According to production archives, television histories, and interviews published years after the series ended, the rapid success of the program meant longer filming days, tighter production schedules, and constant pressure to deliver new adventures each week. Scripts often change with little warning, requiring actors to adjust quickly while maintaining the family-friendly tone that audiences expected. Another important shift happened quietly during the first season. Producers noticed that Jonathan Harris's witty performance as Dr. Zachary Smith drew strong audience attention. Network interviews and production records describe how his growing popularity encouraged writers to expand the character's role. As Dr. Smith received more screen time, the balance between the Robinson family and the supporting cast slowly began to change. Most viewers never recognized this adjustment while the series was still airing. On television, everyone appeared united by a shared mission through space. Behind the scenes, though, changing priorities naturally affected the cast in different ways. Some welcomed the new direction, while others found themselves adapting to a production that no longer looked exactly as it had in 1965. Those early decisions seemed minor at first, but they quietly shaped the relationships, careers, and personal stories that would only come to light many years later. And that was only the beginning of what the cast would eventually reveal. As Lost in Space became one of television's biggest science fiction hits, success did not arrive equally for everyone involved. During the show's first 2 seasons, ratings remained strong, merchandise began appearing in stores, and the cast suddenly found themselves recognized far beyond the studio lot. Fans mailed thousands of letters. Every month, convention organizers requested appearances, and magazines featured the stars as symbols of family entertainment during the late 1960s. Yet behind that growing popularity, each performer experienced fame in a very different way. One of the biggest surprises was the rise of Jonathan Harris as Dr. Zachary Smith. The character had originally been written as a dangerous saboteur who was not expected to remain the center of the story. According to production histories, including interviews collected in the fantasy worlds of Irwin Allen and later television retrospectives, Harris frequently added his own style of humor and improvised lines during filming. Audiences responded immediately. Producers noticed the reaction and gradually rewrote scripts to place Dr. Smith at the center of many episodes. That creative decision had consequences. Actors who had expected the Robinson family to remain the clear focus suddenly found themselves sharing more scenes with Harris than originally planned. According to memoirs from several cast members and archive convention interviews, no major public feud exploded on set, But there were honest disagreements about the show's changing direction. Some believed the comedy made the series more entertaining, while others felt it pulled attention away from the original adventure story. The younger performers faced a different challenge altogether. Billy Mumy, who played Will Robinson, and Angela Cartwright, who portrayed Penny Robinson, were still children while filming. Production schedules often stretched across long workdays, with private tutors helping them keep up with school between scenes. According to Screen Actors Guild rules in effect during the 1960s, child actors had strict limits on working hours, meaning every shooting day required careful planning. Even so, balancing education with a successful television career demanded discipline that most children never experience. Veteran actors also carried private concerns. Guy Williams, already known for portraying Zorro, found himself forever linked to another famous television role. June Lockhart, whose acting career stretched back decades before Lost in Space, brought stability to the production while adjusting to the growing popularity of her younger co-stars. Each performer handled fame differently, but all understood that television success could disappear as quickly as it arrived. Meanwhile, the show's expanding popularity created expectations that became harder to satisfy. Budgets did not rise as quickly as audience demands. According to network records and entertainment trade publications from the period, producers were asked to deliver increasingly imaginative stories without unlimited resources. Those financial pressures slowly affected everything from scripts to special effects. From the outside, Lost in Space looked like a series enjoying effortless success. Behind the cameras, however, changing priorities, uneven attention, and growing production demands were quietly reshaping the experience for everyone involved. The biggest surprises, though, were still hidden behind the studio doors, where years later the cast would finally explain what daily life on the set was really like. The colorful world seen on screen often gave the impression that Lost in Space was produced without difficulty. In reality, creating a new science fiction adventure almost every week was an enormous challenge. By the beginning of the third season in 1967, the production faced tighter budgets, demanding schedules, and growing pressure from a network to keep viewers interested. According to production records, cast interviews, and television historians, many of the biggest changes happened behind the scenes rather than in front of the cameras. One of the most noticeable shifts involved the show's storytelling. During its earliest episodes, Lost in Space focused on suspense, survival, and the Robinson family's struggle to return home. As time passed, however, the series leaned more heavily into comedy and fantasy. Dr. Zachary Smith became the center of many stories, often joined by unusual alien visitors and imaginative creatures instead of serious space exploration. According to interviews given by Mark Goddard, who played Major Don West, he believed the show gradually moved away from its original concept. In later convention appearances and published interviews, Goddard openly admitted that he preferred the dramatic style of the first season. Other cast members remembered the changes differently, saying they understood why producers wanted to emphasize the elements audiences seemed to enjoy the most. While opinions varied, nearly everyone agreed that the series in 1967 looked very different from the one that premiered in 1965. Money also became an important factor. Television budgets during the late 1960s were limited, especially for science fiction productions that required elaborate costumes, props, and visual effects. According to television production histories, many alien costumes and set pieces were reused with small modifications to save money. Some episodes relied on creative camera angles, lighting, and recycled props instead of expensive new designs. Viewers at the time often accepted these limitations because the performances remained entertaining, but cast members knew exactly how much improvisation happened behind the cameras. The famous robot also demanded constant attention. Bob May, who spent long hours inside the heavy robot suit, performed under difficult conditions while Dick Tufeld supplied the unforgettable voice. According to convention interviews, the costume became extremely hot under studio lights, and filming action scenes required patience from everyone on set. Those physical challenges rarely appeared on screen, but they became part of the daily routine throughout all 83 episodes. Despite occasional disagreements, many cast members continued to speak respectfully about one another years later. Reunion events throughout the 1980s, 1990s, and beyond revealed friendships that had survived long after production ended. At the same time, those reunions also gave fans their first honest look at the frustrations, compromises, and missed opportunities that had remained private for decades. If uncovering the hidden stories behind classic television is worth exploring, subscribe because the biggest revelations are still ahead. Even after the final episode aired, the most difficult chapters of several cast members' lives were only beginning. Their greatest battles would not happen on a television set, but in the years that followed, far away from the cameras that had once made them famous. When Lost in Space ended in 1968, the cast walked away from a television series that had become part of American pop culture. For viewers, the adventure simply stopped after 83 episodes. For the actors, however, real life was entering a completely different stage. Some found new opportunities, while others discovered that escaping a famous role could be much harder than earning it in the first place. Guy Williams, who played Professor John Robinson, continued acting for a time, but gradually stepped away from Hollywood. According to published biographies and entertainment reports, he eventually spent much of his later life in Argentina, where reruns of both Lost in Space and Zorro had made him an even bigger celebrity than in the United States. Fans regularly recognized him on the street, and he remained deeply appreciated there until his death in 1989 at the age of 65. June Lockhart experienced a very different journey. Already an established actress before joining the series, she continued working steadily in television, theater, and public appearances for decades. According to interviews and television archives, she embraced her connection to Lost in Space instead of trying to distance herself from it. She became a regular guest at fan conventions, where new generations discovered the show alongside longtime viewers. For the younger cast members, growing up under public attention created unique challenges. Billy Mumy, remembered by millions as Will Robinson, refused to let one role define his career. According to his official biography and music credits, he expanded into voice acting, writing, producing, and music. His voice later appeared in numerous animated series and video games, proving that his career extended far beyond childhood television fame. Angela Cartwright, who portrayed Penny Robinson, also found a new creative direction. Rather than remaining focused only on acting, she developed a respected career in photography and visual arts. In interviews, she often reflected warmly on the friendships built during the series while acknowledging that life after childhood stardom required patience and reinvention. Jonathan Harris perhaps experienced the strongest connection with fans. His portrayal of Dr. Smith remained so popular that convention audiences continued quoting his famous lines decades after the show's finale. According to convention organizers and entertainment publications, Harris became one of the most requested guests at science fiction events throughout the 1980s and 1990s, happily sharing stories about the production while keeping the character alive for new audiences. Not every memory was completely joyful. Several cast members later admitted that typecasting limited certain opportunities. Directors often saw them only as their Lost in Space characters, making it difficult to compete for dramatically different roles. According to television historians, this was a common challenge for actors from successful series during the 1960s, especially those connected to iconic family programming. Reunion specials and anniversary celebrations slowly revealed something many fans had never fully appreciated. Although opinions about scripts and production choices had sometimes differed, genuine affection had grown between many members of the cast over the years. Time softened old disagreements and replaced them with shared memories of an unusual television experience that continued to inspire audiences long after its original broadcast. Many people remember a favorite show that changed with time. Share series that still brings back powerful memories. Those reunions also uncovered one final realization. The greatest legacy of Lost in Space was never just its adventures among the stars. It was the remarkable resilience of the people who brought those adventures to life and the lasting impact they left on generations of viewers. Nearly 60 years after its debut in 1965, Lost in Space continues to hold a special place in television history. While many science fiction shows from the same era slowly faded from public memory, this series found new audiences through reruns, home video releases, streaming platforms, and fan conventions. The adventures of the Robinson family remained entertaining, but the lasting fascination came from something deeper. Over time, the real stories of the people behind those characters became just as compelling as the fictional journey through space. According to television historians, archival interviews, and official cast biographies, one of the biggest surprises was that the series was never built around major scandals or dramatic feuds. Instead, the hidden story was far more human. Each cast member faced personal victories and disappointments that viewers rarely saw. Some struggled to escape famous roles. Others successfully reinvented themselves in new careers. A few found that their greatest achievements happened long after the cameras stopped recording. The passage of time also changed how audiences viewed the show's creative evolution. Critics who once questioned its shift toward comedy later recognized that those lighter episodes helped create unforgettable television moments. Dr. Smith and the robot became cultural icons whose popularity stretched far beyond the original 83 episodes. According to entertainment publications and television retrospectives, those characters remain among the most recognizable figures in classic American science fiction. Several cast members also used their later years to preserve the history of the series. Convention appearances, documentaries, recorded interviews, and fan events throughout the 1980s, 1990s, and 2000s allowed them to share stories that had remained untold during production. They spoke honestly about demanding filming schedules, changing scripts, unexpected friendships, and the realities of working in television during the 1960s. Those reflections added valuable context without diminishing the affection they still held for the show. Perhaps the most overlooked truth connects nearly every major cast member. None of them could have predicted that a television series lasting only 3 seasons would define their lives for decades. Some embraced that legacy immediately. Others needed years to appreciate what the show meant to millions of viewers around the world. Yet, whenever they gathered for reunions, one feeling appeared again and again: gratitude. The friendships, memories, and shared experiences ultimately became more important than ratings or screen time. Today, Lost in Space is remembered not only for space adventures and memorable catchphrases, but also as a reminder that the people behind beloved television shows often live lives far more complex than the characters they portray. Production records, memoirs, convention interviews, and television archives reveal a story of perseverance, adaptation, and lasting respect rather than sensational scandal. The hidden stories behind classic television do not end here. Another legendary cast carried equally surprising secrets that remained unnoticed for decades.